August 480 BC, dawn, the cliffs above the Malian Gulf. The first thing the Greek scouts saw was not an army. It was a shadow, a darkness crawling across the coastal plain from the north, swallowing the morning light. Then came the sound, not horns, not war cries, but a low, endless rumble. The vibration of 1,000,000 footsteps, the groan of 10,000 supply carts, the bleating of herds driven for slaughter. King Xerxes had brought his empire with him. From his golden throne perched on the hillside, the great king watched his host flow south. Immortals in embroidered tunics, Scythian horse archers, Indian war elephants swaying like mountains. For 7 days and 7 nights, his army had crossed the Hellespont, on bridges of lashed ships, a feat no god had ever stopped. Now Xerxes smiled. His spies told him the Greeks were terrified. Most city-states had already surrendered. Those who hadn't, Athens, Sparta, were squabbling like frightened children. But Xerxes did not yet understand something crucial. Greece was not a battlefield. It was a trap waiting to snap shut. The Persian scouts rode forward through the morning mist. They reached a narrow passage where the mountains plunged straight into the sea. A stone wall, low and old, blocked the path. Behind it, figures stirred. Not thousands, not even a full army, just a few hundred men in crimson cloaks, bronze helmets gleaming dull in the first light. The lead scout laughed. He raised his hand to signal the main force forward. Then he saw their shields, not painted with symbols of gods or kings, just the Greek letter lambda, Lacedaemon, Sparta. And on the rocks above, a lone king sat calmly, Leonidas. He was combing his long hair with his fingers. A Spartan ritual, the ritual of a man who knew he would not see sunset. One of his soldiers whispered, "The Persian arrows will block out the sun." Leonidas reportedly answered without looking up, "Then we will fight in the shade." The scout turned his horse and galloped back to Xerxes. The trap had not yet sprung, but the first thread had just been pulled. 2 hours after dawn, the heat rose off the pass like a baker's oven. Xerxes waited. He did not understand why this tiny force had not fled. So he sent a messenger, a Greek-speaking Persian noble riding under a white flag. The offer was generous. Lay down your weapons. Receive land. Become friends of the great king. Leonidas stood. He looked the messenger in the eye, said nothing for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he pointed at the ground beneath his sandals. "Come and take them." The messenger rode back. Xerxes reportedly flew into such rage that he ordered his archers to fire without advancing. For an hour the sky went dark. Tens of thousands of arrows rained into the pass. When the dust cleared, the Persians expected to see a field of corpses. Instead, they saw Spartans kneeling behind their shields, unscratched. A few had arrows stuck in their cloaks. One man shook his head and pulled a shaft from his helmet plume. Then they stood, locked shields, waited. Xerxes ordered the first. "Wave forward, Medes, Scythians, light infantry from the eastern satrapies." They charged screaming into the narrows and instantly choked. The pass was barely wide enough for 20 men to fight abreast. The Persians pushed against a wall of bronze and ashwood. Their spears shattered. Their wicker shields splintered. The Spartans did not shout. They stabbed. Short thrusts upward, under the ribs. Step forward, stab step. The Medes broke. Survivors fled back into their own ranks, eyes white with terror. Xerxes stood from his throne. He had watched cities burn. He had watched rivers turn red. But he had never watched 500 men repel 5,000. He called for the immortals, 10,000 of the empire's finest. Their spear butts had silver pomegranates. Their tunics were hidden beneath fish-scale armor. They had never lost a battle. As they marched toward the pass, Xerxes leaned forward. He told his generals, "End this in 1 hour." But the immortals had never fought in a corridor, where courage meant nothing and terrain meant everything. They marched into the narrows, and the Spartans simply shifted their grip, waited, smiled. That smile should have been the first warning. The immortals learned something their predecessors had not. The ground was slick with blood now. Bodies from the first wave lay piled knee-high. The Spartans had used them as a makeshift wall. When the immortals climbed over the corpses, their formation broke. Their long spears, designed for open-field warfare, became useless in the crush. Spartans dropped their own spears, drew short swords, and went to work. Here is where the legend meets the horror. A Spartan named Leonidas, historically recorded, was told before the battle that the Persian arrows would be so numerous they would blot out the sun. His reported reply, "Good, then we will have our battle in the shade." But the reality was worse. The immortals did not break from fear. They broke from physics. The men in the front could not retreat. The men behind pushed forward. Men died standing up, crushed between shields, unable to fall. One unnamed Spartan soldier, his name lost to history, lost his spear in the first minute. He drew his sword, killed 3 immortals, then his sword broke. He fought with his bare hands until a Persian axe split his collarbone. He died biting the axe wielder's thumb. The immortals pulled back after 2 hours. They had lost nearly 2,000 men. The Spartans had lost perhaps 7. Xerxes reportedly threw his diadem to the ground. He had brought the largest army in human history to conquer a mountain pass, held by a few hundred men who refused to die. His generals offered excuses: the terrain, the heat, the Greek treachery. Xerxes waved them silent. He knew the truth. His army had just met an enemy that did not value life the way other men did. But that night, a Greek farmer walked into the Persian camp. His name was Ephialtes. He wanted gold, and he knew something that Leonidas did not know he knew. A path, over the mountain, unguarded. The trap had just been reversed. Moonless night. The mountains above Thermopylae. Ephialtes did not walk like a traitor. He walked like a man who had already justified his choice. The Persians would win anyway. Why die for a lost cause? Why not profit? He led a hand-picked force of immortals, the best climbers, the most silent killers, up a goat track hidden by oak trees and falling water. No torches, no words, just the scrape of sandals on limestone and the distant crash of the Aegean far below. The path was called the Thermopylae. Locals used it to steal sheep. No Greek general had bothered to guard it because no Greek general believed any man would betray his own people to a foreign king. They were wrong. By midnight, the immortals reached the summit. Below them, they could see the Greek campfires, small, defiant, doomed. The Spartan allies, Thespians, Thebans, slept in their cloaks. Leonidas sat awake. Some sources claim he saw the lights moving on the ridge. Others say a deserter from the Persian camp ran to warn him. Either way, Leonidas knew by the second hour after midnight, the pass was lost. He did not panic. That is not a legend. That is Spartan doctrine. He called a war council, whispered, because sound carried in the mountains. He told his allies, "Go, live, tell them what happened here." Most left. But the Thespians, 700 volunteers under General Thermopylae, refused. They said, "We stayed to fight. We will stay to die." Leonidas reportedly laughed, a real laugh. Then he told his 300 Spartans to eat breakfast. Not a prayer, not a final speech. Eat breakfast? Because dead men do not need food. But men about to kill an emperor's best soldiers, they need strength. At first light, Xerxes ordered the final assault, front and rear, the hammer and the anvil. Leonidas looked at his 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans, though the Thebans would later surrender. He said nothing heroic. He simply stood, adjusted his helmet, and walked toward the eastern entrance of the pass. The last act had begun. Dawn, August 480 BC. The pass glowed orange as the sun cleared the ridgeline. Leonidas did not wait to be surrounded. That was the Persian plan: hold the Greeks in place from the front, while the immortals descended behind them. But Leonidas had spent his entire life understanding one simple truth: attack the attack. He ordered his men forward, not a retreat, not a defensive line, a charge. The Spartans ran straight into the Persian front line. Xerxes' soldiers had been trained to fight armies that broke and fled. They had never seen an outnumbered force sprint toward certain death. The impact was catastrophic. Persian officers shouted orders in half a dozen languages. Their formation buckled. Men threw down their shields and ran, not because they were cowards, but because they were human. Leonidas fought in the front rank. His helmet was knocked sideways early. He did not stop to adjust it. His shield caught 3 arrows. His spear broke. He drew his sword, a xiphos, short, brutal, designed for close quarters, and killed a Persian general named Artapanus with a thrust through the throat. Then he fell. Ancient sources disagree on how. Some say an arrow found the gap between his cuirass and his thigh. Others claim a spear took him in the chest. But everyone agrees on what happened next. The Persians swarmed the body. The Spartans erupted. 4 times they charged to retrieve their king. 4 times they drove the immortals back. Men fought with broken spears. Men fought with rocks. Men fought with their bare hands until Persian blades cut them down. When the Spartans finally recovered Leonidas's body, they formed a circle around it, backs together, shields locked, king at their feet. The immortals encircled them. Nobody moved for a long breath. Then the immortals advanced, and the Spartans did something that reportedly made even Xerxes go silent. They knelt, not to surrender, to brace, to make their final stand harder to break. The first Persian spear found a Spartan's ribs. He did not scream. The second took a Thespian in the shoulder. He dropped his shield and kept stabbing with his free hand. The circle shrank. The bodies piled higher. But the Greeks did not run. Mid-morning, the heat was unbearable. So was the smell. The final phase of the Battle of Thermopylae was not a battle. It was an execution delayed by stubbornness. The immortals from the mountain path had now fully encircled the remaining Greeks. The Thebans, approximately 400 men, surrendered. They would be branded with the king's marks and sold into slavery. History does not record their names, only their shame. But the Spartans and Thespians did not surrender. The surviving Greeks, perhaps 300 men, total by this point, retreated to a small hill at the western edge of the pass. A low mound, barely elevated above the carnage. Here they made their last stand, not for victory, not for glory, for time. Every hour they held, the Greek fleet at Artemisium gained another hour. Every Persian soldier who died on this hill was one fewer soldier. Who would march on Athens? Xerxes ordered his archers to fire from all sides. The Greeks raised their shields. Arrows stuck into the wood like porcupine quills. Then the immortals advanced again, and again, and again. A Spartan named Aristodemus, historically recorded, fought with such fury that witnesses later claimed he was trying to die. He did not. He would survive, and he would be shamed for it. But on that hill, no one cared about shame. Only the next thrust, the next block, the next breath. One unnamed Thespian, just a farmer's son, likely, lost both his front teeth to a Persian mace. He kept fighting. A spear went through his thigh. He kept fighting. An arrow pinned his hand to his shield. He broke the arrow off and kept fighting. When he finally fell, he reportedly crawled toward the Persian line, still trying to stab ankles. The hill grew slippery, not with water, with blood and viscera. By the 10th hour, only a handful of Greeks remained standing. They formed a tight cluster around Leonidas's body. No one spoke, no one wept. The Persians gave them one final chance to surrender. The response was a single war cry, Itani epitas, with it or on it. The Spartan motto, a shield, or carried home upon it. The last Persian arrow volley ended it. Not one Greek on that hill survived. The day after the battle, Xerxes walked the pass. He stepped over his own dead. Estimates vary, but ancient sources suggest as many as 20,000 Persian casualties over 3 days. He stepped over Greek dead, exactly. 298 Spartans. 2 had been absent due to illness. 1 would later hang himself from shame. And then he saw Leonidas. The Spartan king's body had been stripped. His armor was gone. His face was calm, a detail that reportedly disturbed the great king. Xerxes ordered the head cut off, the body crucified on a wooden cross. In Persian tradition, to mutilate a corpse was to deny it passage to the afterlife. Xerxes wanted Leonidas to wander eternity as a ghost. But here is what Xerxes did not know. The ghost was already hunting. His admiral, Artemisia, one of his most trusted commanders, warned him that Thermopylae was not a victory. She reportedly said, "You have killed lions, but their cubs are now wolves." Xerxes ignored her. He marched on Athens. He burned the Acropolis. He achieved everything he had promised. And then, at Salamis, his fleet was destroyed. His army starved. He fled back to Asia with barely a fraction of his original force. The 300 Spartans did not win the war at Thermopylae. They lost the battle. They lost their king. They lost their lives. But they bought something the Persians could not afford. Time. Time for Athens to evacuate. Time for the Greek fleet to regroup. Time for a ragtag alliance of squabbling. City-states to realize they could beat the greatest empire on earth. Today, a modern monument stands at Thermopylae. A bronze statue of Leonidas. His shield. His spear. His helmet turned slightly to the side, watching the pass he held. Beneath it, an inscription in ancient Greek. Not a boast. Not a threat. Just 2 words. Molon lave. Come and take them. Xerxes came. He took the pass. But he never took Greece. And he never took the memory of 300 men who refused to bow.